with another podcast from the Three Money Amigos. Today, you get a special treat. You get to hear us talk generally about tax issues that exist right now, thoughts that we have on some tax stuff, conversations about tax matters. And the reason why that's really important for all of you all listening, if you're listening to us live, this is your opportunity to ask us a live question. If you are listening to the replay, it's your opportunity to put something in the comments, and we will do our best to get back in contact with you. However, if we cannot, we're going to introduce ourselves so you know how to get in contact with us during this really critical time. All right, first, Beverly, if you can introduce yourself and let everyone know how to get in touch with you.
Sure. I am Beverly Winstead. I'm the principal and founder of Law Office of Beverly Winstead. We are a tax resolution firm, and we love helping people get out of trouble with the IRS and state agencies. If you're going through an audit or being owe IRS a bunch of money, we love to be able to help you work out some type of resolution with IRS. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joy Sistrunk of Premier Group. We are a CPA firm in the Washington, D.C. area. We work with businesses and nonprofits on their audits, taxes, and their accounting and all their other back office needs.
My name is Brent Simpson. I am the co-founder of Investing Education Academy along with Leon Noble. If you're interested in figuring out how to get into the stock market, how to invest in private equity deals, what is happening with cryptocurrency, and you want to be a part of these conversations, you can go to IEAnow.com and join our membership platform. All right, let's now jump into it. Do you all know what's happening in 30 days? There's a pause. It's not for you all just now. This is for everybody listening. If you want to put in the comments, if you want to drop what you think is happening, what is happening in 30 days and why is it important to business owners? Okay, 5 seconds, it's over. Now let's talk about it. What's happening in 30 days, everybody?
The tax deadline. Yay!
The tax deadline for flow-through entities. What's a flow-through entity? Those are those partnership returns, and those are the S Corp returns. They're due.
Yep. Dun, dun, dun.
They're due if you filed an extension. They're late, very late if you didn't.
Exactly.
And so if you all are thinking, what happens if I have an LLC that files as a subchapter S? Am I subject to that same deadline?
Yeah, if your LLC that's files as a subchapter S, you are, because it's a flow-through entity. And the reason why we're saying this is because penalties are very, can get very high, expensive. It's expensive to file late. So we always say, even if it's not correct, you still want to file because you can always go back and potentially do an amended return.
True.
All right. So, that's something I know some of you all are sitting there going, well, I have this LLC. It's not a subchapter S, so I'm safe. You heard it here. If you file, I'm going to say it very slowly. If you have an LLC that files as a subchapter S and you filed an extension, please hear all those points. You are subject to this 30-day deadline as it states. Today is August the 15th, 2023.
Yes, so it's 30 days from now.
So for those of you all who are thinking, okay, now what does that mean? Like, I have to file this, but I have my personal taxes too. Does that now affect? I filed an extension for my personal taxes. How does that play into my corporate tax?
So before we even go there, I think it's important. You said, how does that impact you and me and everybody? The first thing it should impact you is because you got to realize with 30 days left, you need to get your documents over to the person who's preparing your tax return. Or if you have not, or if you're going to prepare your own return, you should be working to try to get everything together so you can get the return done. Now, if you work with somebody like Joy or myself, our cutoff deadline is typically August 31st.
Yep.
Because you don't want to get caught in a whole bunch of other people trying to meet their deadlines. And I've been trying to push my clients earlier because I knew I was going to be on vacation in September. And so I've been trying to really push my clients even in July, August, while everybody's living their best lives. I'm watching them on Facebook. And I'm saying, look,
in Panama and whatnot.
Hey, I'm not calling nobody, but I'm like, I need your documents if we're gonna get this thing done timely.
You know, this goes back to, for everybody listening, knowing your advisors well. And, you know, when you do know your advisors and you know they have your best interests in mind, it helps you move. But also, too, it helps you know if they're going to be around. If you all are listening and you're working with Beverly, she just told you she's gone in September. So that means pay attention. If you guys are, you know, thinking, oh, I have all the time in the world, because as long as I get them to get in XYZ to somebody within 5 days or 2 days, or it's the next day, you just heard Joy say that they're stopping around the 30th of August.
Yeah.
So when you know your service providers, you know what your responsibility is. And please, everybody listening, if you cannot work with your service providers, don't blame them when things go wrong. And you know, Beverly and Joy, you know, there's one thing, I'll throw myself out there. They'll tell you there's very few situations that come up and I don't accept the fact that I'm wrong in the scenario. And then also too, I listen. Even when I'm like, I'll still do it, but I'm trying to figure out the way that I want to do it that also suits me. Going into this, what is your goal? What happens if a person wants to establish a company? Does the deadline have any bearing on a person establishing a company right now?
No, it doesn't have any bearing on anybody. I don't know if you want to take this question, Joy, but
no, it's fine.
I mean, we do business setups for clients a lot, all the time, right? And so this tax deadline doesn't impact them starting a company, but what it might impact would be your responsibility the following year, like for instance with Maryland, to file annual reports with the state, to file personal property tax returns that a lot of states require.
Right.
Some North Carolina requires annual reports. Also, DC is biannual reports.
Virginia's annual too.
Right. So it's not just about when you start a business, like filing the tax returns. There's also other things that you might have to do in order to be compliant and maintain your business in good standing.
And when you say, you know, filing these requirements, is there a place a person can go to figure out what all the requirements are?
Yeah, hopefully your tax advisor.
That's true. And hopefully they've been sending, as we do, we sending them out the deadlines and everything. Yes, because it is difficult and it is a lot to keep up with. So no one's expecting you to know everything, but just we do need you to pay attention and not kind of check out. I know a lot is happening all the times, but we're constantly sending out reminders, because Bev mentioned the Maryland personal property tax. Even in Maryland right now, if you haven't filed your business taxes or your personal property tax, that's already late, because it was due June 15th. And so you need to check online at the Maryland website, Maryland SDAT, to see if your business is in good standing. Because if you're trying to get bank loans, if you're trying to do anything, refinance and anything related to business, they are going to check to see what your status is.
And that's when we saw a lot of businesses miss out on PPP or struggle to get the PPP loans that happened 2 years ago because they weren't in good standing. They had gone years and not actually filed their annual reports. And one of the requirements in order to get a PPP loan would be that you'd have to be in good standing.
And for those of you all who don't understand like what that is, it's when you contact the IRS or when you have what's called a certificate of good standing, it lets other businesses, financial institutions know that you've done your requirement, you've done your part to make sure your business is compliant. I've seen, and this is on the business front, people come in and they want to go for a loan or they want to buy another property. And even this, some people I've met want to switch banks. Wow. And they don't realize that when you go to switch banks, they're going to check for your certificate of good standing. They actually want a copy of it in most cases.
Yeah.
And so these things are very important. It's not just when we're saying, okay, come to us as professionals and we want to make sure you're compliant to make our jobs easier. We're saying, no, when you're conducting a business, and that's why we do the 3 Money Amigos. We all have these different angles on how we look at money, and we are friends. And so we're telling you as advisors, well, not your personal advisor, because this is not indicated to be advice to any one person. This is general information for the general consumption of the But seriously, this is information you can go back to whoever your professional is. And if you do it yourself, it should hopefully get you further along. But it's true. It's bigger than just taxes. So, what kind of company do you have? How do you track these things? Do you have a spreadsheet? I suggest people have a spreadsheet. Even if you have a spreadsheet, you're probably going to fall out of love with it at some point, and it's going to be somewhere you don't even know where it is. Put it on the sticky, hang it up somewhere, put it in a drawer. I know, and I'm talking physical. I'm 47. It's hard for me not to think about physical stuff. But I've seen people try to track everything electronically, and it gets lost. And so also checking with your professionals. Now, for working with you all, do you normally have your clients come in off season just to do a checkup, or is it mainly when the fires are occurring?
So you said it's always better to try to do a checkup. We always try to actually meet with those that sign up for it. We try to encourage our clients to sign up for tax planning so we can meet with them quarterly and kind of have a pulse on what's going on, and we can help them make decisions. Because the last thing, I always tell the horror story about the client who took money out of their 401k and paid off anything and then had this astronomical tax bill because they thought they were doing the right thing. But that was because they didn't sign up for the tax planning service and did not have conversations with us, because we would have kind of encouraged them if that was your goal, we can work towards it, but we want to do it a little differently than that. And you never want to take money out of your 401k. But that's, those are the types of things you want to know what's going on with your individuals and your business clients. And we also don't want you to get to the end of the year and just have these big bills when we could have purchased new equipment for the business and just been looking forward. So fires, nobody really, I don't, if what's happened in Hawaii has taught us anything, nobody likes a fire, and fires always have casualties. No, I'm serious. So it's better if you're being proactive and you have those conversations in advance.
So I'm gonna tell my little horror story, but it's fast. I had a client. This is back when I was a stockbroker, and they wanted to save money, so they decided not to contribute to their required minimum distribution. That's a 50% tax. 50%
you mean they decided not to distribute from
not to pull money?
Oh yeah, not to.
And so I'm like, for that contribution amount, or for that what would have been that distribution, you basically just threw 50% of it away.
Wow!
Immediately. And I didn't know until probably like 2 years later when they came to ask me about a trade in their account, and I was like, well, how come it's so much less? And then they, with tears in their eyes, they told me, and this person had a significant amount of money. They told me that they thought they were saving, keep more money in by not taking out the distribution, not realizing it was a 50% penalty. Wow. And so, these are things when you talk about tax planning that are very important. And some people don't understand what tax planning is. So, Bev, in a very brief way, can you describe what tax planning is and why it's helpful?
So I think there was a quote by Judge Learned Hand, and I'm just going to try to summarize the quote because it's actually one of my favorite quotes when it comes to taxes. But basically what he said is, you don't have there's no patriotism in paying the most amount of taxes to IRS. It's not your patriotic duty to do that, right? Anyone may arrange their affairs so that they can pay the least amount of money to the government, right? And so what tax planning actually does is it allows us to plan and posture you in a position or in a way where you keep most of your money and you pay whatever the bare minimum is to the IRS. If it's consistent with your goals. And the reason why I say is if it's consistent with your goals is because I just met with a client maybe like a couple of months ago, and she's getting her stock is vesting, and there's a merger that's happening in her company. So she has to actually, she's going to sell about $1.2 million worth of stock, right? Can she do anything about selling or the capital gains she's going to be assessed with? There's only one or two strategies, but it's not consistent with her goal, right? She wants to be able to give some of her money to her parents. She wants to help them buy a house, those kinds of things. So at least at the end of the day, she can make an informed decision because she has information. So we say, okay, these are the strategies. It's not really consistent with your goal, but it will lower your tax bill, right? Now, had she came to us when she got the stock, we would have told her probably to make an 83B election, which you can do, and then that will save you on the back end. And an 83B election just basically says, hey, I want to pay taxes now because in the future, I think that the stock may be way more in terms of value than what it is right now.
Yeah, and that takes us into a conversation that I am not going to touch now. But it's like, do you pay the tax on investing now, or do you pay it later? Like, what's your thought? What's your goal? What is your objective? And all these things are tax related conversations. So if you want to hear more about that, you need to tune in next week, because you don't know what we'll be talking about, because we're the Three Money Amigos. We're professionals, baby. It can go, the conversation can go anywhere. And so, I mean, the reason why we do this is really to have fun. And these are conversations that, as professionals, we do have. And also as advisors and as clients, we have with each other. And these are conversations that sometimes the general community isn't privy to. And somebody actually sent me a message saying that they really like listening to us, because these are conversations they don't have with their friends. And I'm happy to hear that, because these are now conversations you might not have with your friends, but you can take back to your friends. If you're at an event, pull up this podcast, pull up this live, and talk about it. If you have parents and you're like, you know what, we really should think about tax planning, this show it to them and say, look, they got 2 horror stories in here that we don't want to happen to you. It is very beneficial to get ahead of the storm, as Beverly said. We don't want to be stuck in a storm, and we don't want to be victims of what was the aftermath of a storm. So we're giving you the opportunity, everybody. You can be, be weather people. So I didn't say weathermen, because that's not correct. So, but with that being said, if you're thinking, you know what, I would like to do some tax planning, and I noticed 30 days is coming up, and I do fall into that group that they mentioned, please set an appointment now, because you have Beverly, who will be traveling in September. You have Joy towards the end of August. That deadline is coming up in her firm, and these are companies that you want to work with. So you need to plan ahead, because people don't plan to fail; they fail to plan, and we don't want that to be people who listen to our show. So if somebody's going, you know what, that's the trigger I needed, I want to set an appointment, how could they get in contact with you lovely people?
So I'm Joyce Sistrunk of Premier Group. You can go to our website, which is www.pgs-cpa.com, or you can give us a call at 301-577-6444.
And I'm Beverly Winstead. I can be reached, found on the web at www.irshelpattorneys.com. And my number is 301-306-1234. And I'm on Instagram at IRS Help Attorney.
All right. And if you all are looking for Investing Education Academy, you can go to www.iea now. It's up in that corner. So you can just find us on the web, become a member. All of our information is up in that corner. Find us, set an appointment. It may be a cost with some of our appointments. I'm telling you that ahead of time, and we're worth it. So, with that being said, we look forward to servicing you all. And if nothing else, we look forward to providing you with information to hopefully make your life better and your financial journey a little easier. We are signing off, and we'll see you next week as the Three Money